Hello and welcome back to The World According to Reese. In my last video, I spoke more about guide dogs in general. Now, I want to take some time to talk about the guide dog assessment process and how this works. Most people assume that if you're blind and you want to get a guide dog, that you can just ask for one and then you're given the dog just like that. This is not the case, and for good reasons, which I will talk about in this video. So, when I was younger, the idea of getting a guide dog really appealed to me. I'd seen the adverts on TV, which guide dogs use to encourage sponsorship of puppies in training. These adverts often come with success stories, all of which made getting a guide dog sound all the more exciting. Getting a guide dog is something that, as a family, we'd thought on and off about for quite a while. And I know the guide dogs are really well trained, but as we've always had a cat at home, and as my brothers and sister were much younger at the time, we really wanted to wait until we felt the time was right for us as a family, as we would want to be sure that the dog would be able to cope in the family environment as well. So to begin the assessment process, you first need to write to your local guide dog centre. They will then get in touch with you to arrange a visit, which will usually be at your home address. We have a guide dog training school quite near to us, and I'm going to be honest, the instructors who come out and do these visits really work with you to understand your individual circumstances, and they will absolutely approach this in the most person-centered way possible. So during the initial visit, the instructor will ask a wide range of questions, all about your home situation, medical history, mobility and orientation, work and education, etc. The reason for this is to allow the instructor to get a picture of your life in general, so that if you are accepted for a guide dog, you can be matched with the right dog for your needs. When matching a dog with an owner, one of the things the team have to consider is your lifestyle. And this is because different dogs have different lifestyles as well. Someone like myself, for instance, wouldn't be suited to a dog that really needs to be on the go constantly when I'm sitting in a college classroom or working in an office. So there are different stages of the assessment process, and when the first visit has happened, the guide dog team will decide if you're eligible to move on to stage 2 of the assessment process. In my case, I was allowed to progress to the next stage, which involves a second home visit. During the second visit, they will look at how many routes you know and how confident you are with these routes. The instructor this time round watched my cane skills and took a close look at things like how safe I was crossing roads, etc. You see, during my secondary education, I attended a residential school for blind people, where there was a huge focus on development of mobility and orientation skills. However, the issue is that as a blind traveller with a guide dog, you really need to have a good understanding of the routes in your home area. And although my mobility skills are good overall, the focus had largely been on skills within the local areas surrounding the school I attended. And so it was felt that at the moment I didn't have the necessary skills needed to continue with the guide dog process. So after that second visit, I was told that they would come back in a few weeks and that they would try me with a guide dog in training just to see how I would cope with this. This was, of course, under close supervision. I wasn't going to be left on my own with a dog at this stage. It felt really quite strange to be the one in charge of a dog, as I'd never done anything like this up until now. I knew I wouldn't have to worry, as the instructor was there at all times, and she could step in if needed. It was good, I suppose, to get a feeling for what it would be like if I had a guide dog in the future. The next thing was for myself, my family, and the guide dog instructors to have a long chat to decide whether I should be accepted for a guide dog. People who get accepted will then have to attend an intense training course, which usually lasts a few weeks. This is to make sure you can look after both yourself and the dog as safely as possible, and of course, so you can be matched with the correct dog. On this occasion, it was eventually decided, after a long discussion, that I shouldn't continue with the process at this time. I was given the option to appeal, but to be honest, I can see why this decision was made, and I actually agreed that it wasn't the right time to have a guide dog myself. I'd like to stress, though, that just because you've applied for a guide dog and been refused does absolutely not mean you've failed. It does not also mean that you can never apply again either. Indeed, I would rather be refused first time round rather than get a guide dog and realise afterwards that it wasn't right after I'd had the dog, because let's be honest, I wouldn't want to have to hand back a dog or for an accident to happen when I was out and about. I hope this has helped people to understand the process of getting a guide dog. The process is complicated and there is probably more I could tell you, but I hope that it has helped people understand what to expect if they decide to apply. If you're thinking of applying, my message would be to go for it. And remember, if you aren't accepted at the moment, you have not failed and it is not the end. Also, if you haven't seen my last video, which talks more about guide dogs in general, I've linked this in the description for people to look at. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you liked it, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you can get notified about future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.